Live from Washington, D.C., this is Transport Topics Newsmakers, the digital interview series that gives you access to candid conversations between industry experts and a veteran reporter. Sponsored by DDC FPO. Here's your host, Dan Ronan.
Welcome to Newsmakers from Transport Topics. I'm Dan Ronan. Thank you for joining us. This next edition of Newsmakers is going to be a little bit different. We felt the content was so important. We've decided to have two guests for what will be two 20-minute segments over the next couple of days to discuss business continuity related issues and how in these difficult times you can keep your business operating should something go wrong. We will be welcoming crisis management and business continuity expert Dean Gallup, as well as Washington, D.C. attorney and cybersecurity expert Scott Gaddis to this edition of Newsmakers. Before we begin our conversation with Dean and Scott, I want to tell you that DDC FPO is our sponsor for this edition of Newsmakers. So let's watch their message and we'll be back on the other side with our guests.
In the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, how are you able to maintain your service levels? Not to mention, pursue your goals for growth. DDC FPO can help. DDC FPO's business continuity is reliable, robust, and proven. DDC partners are protected against disruptions such as natural disasters, cyber attacks, regulatory issues, soft market conditions, limited talent pools, and more. With our proprietary frameworks, decades of experience, and industry expertise, you can continue to move freight smoothly and efficiently, regardless of what is happening around you. With premium solutions for billing, customer service, inside sales, customs brokerage, and more. The costs and struggles of hiring, training, retraining, and motivating high-performing back and front office teams are no longer a concern. DDC develops personalized programs to meet your goals. With our best-in-class operating procedures, we get programs off the ground quickly without compromising quality. And to safeguard you from unforeseen circumstances, market downturns, and overhead expenses, DDC provides long-term cost containment. Combine this with our strategic operating locations worldwide, DDC partners can rest assured that their business processes will work as hard as they do and will continue to succeed when times get tough. Minimize downtime, eliminate churn, fulfill promises, scale your operation, and achieve growth. To learn how we can ensure your business continuity, contact DDC FPO today.
A few words about our guest, Dean Gallup. He has more than 40 years of experience in emergency management, disaster recovery, continuity planning, data center operations, governance, and security risk management. He's worked with FEMA, the FDIC on continuity issues, and national level experience planning and development. His previous clients include the IRS, the U.S. House of Representatives, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and other federal and Department of Defense agencies. Dean, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for joining us for this edition of Newsmakers.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to this discussion.
Dean, what do you think the biggest threat is to companies these days in terms of business continuity? What's the biggest threat?
Well, obviously, cybersecurity is a major issue with a lot of people. We're very information-based, IT-based organizations and rely heavily on our computer information and our information systems. So cybersecurity is always very big. However, we can't forget very small businesses, a lot of small businesses. While that's important, their operations is actually the most important thing. And things like natural disasters, especially if you look at the trucking industry and transportation industry, natural disasters, floods, hurricanes, and such definitely are going to disrupt your operations and need to be taken into consideration when you're looking at business continuity. If you can't get over the roads, you can't make your deliveries, you can't do what you need to do as a trucking industry. And, that's definitely a big consideration that has to be looked at when you're looking at business continuity, especially in transportation. supply chain risk is another big area. And obviously, the trucking industry and transportation industry is the blood flow of our nation in terms of supplies and delivery of products and everything, so that they need to look at that supply chain. There's actually two areas, and we'll talk about that a little bit later if you want, on supply chain risk management, because you are the supply chain. So businesses are relying on you to deliver the goods that they need to do their operations. So that's a big aspect on their business continuity.
And we're hearing that now and seeing that firsthand is the case in Northern and Central California with the violent weather that they've been having, the heavy snow, the flooding, the problems that we have in the Southeast and in the deep South with hurricanes. And then, of course, later in the summer with tornadoes. All of them are right there. They sort of teed it up for you, Dean. They're big business continuity issues that are weather related.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And you've also got your forest fires out in the Midwest, and droughts, followed by flooding. I mean, California just had some unprecedented snowfall here a couple of weeks ago, and that's going to create some serious flooding issues. The other issue, obviously, is that there's, for you all, is that there's a infrastructure. The infrastructure is old in a lot of areas and needs updating. And you have to consider, some of these bridges and roads just can't handle these climate events. And that's going to cause a big disruption in your ability to deliver supplies and move freight around. So climate change is becoming a major issue. And unfortunately, it's kind of a political one at this point, but it's something that really needs to be considered for small businesses and all businesses, is that things are changing. We're not in the same type of weather environments that we were 20 years ago, and things are more violent and more destructive as they occur.
Dean, it would seem as though that we are not just the trucking and the freight industry, but all industries are not prepared to the level that you think they should be, that more could be done, should be done. And it sounds like it should be quite urgent.
It is. It's definitely urgent. And unfortunately, business continuity is one of those things that people, for a lot of reasons, don't have. One, it costs money. There's an expense involved in putting together a business continuity plan. There's also the fact that nobody really understands it. It's one of those things. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. And you look online and you'll see this template that's 97 pages long and think, there's no way I can do anything like this. And it scares people. Continuity is really a pseudo insurance policy. It provides the planning and the ability for you to recover your business in an effective manner, as opposed to trying to figure it out as you're going along. Unfortunately, 75% or so of businesses nowadays, small businesses especially, do not have any kind of business continuity planning done. And it's been shown that 75 to 90% of businesses that have a disaster event fail within a year of that event because they're not able to recover from it. So it's a big issue with the world that we're living in nowadays and the interconnectivity that we're all experiencing. It becomes that much more critical. The days of having the little mom and pop shops and everything just kind of going through a normal cycle is gone. Our hurricane cycle is different. As we said, the forest fires, the droughts, everything is kind of coming at an unprecedented level, and businesses really need to be prepared for that.
I was just thinking about this, Dean, as you were responding, that This month, we are 3 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, and thankfully, it appears to be receding. Thankfully, but that is a
Mhm.
major business continuity event that's taken place in our lifetime. Maybe the biggest. I mean, we've lost hundreds of thousands of people in terms of loss of life and lost productivity, hospitalizations, and the like. Uh, the economy for a short period of time went into a pretty steep recession. So that classifies as a business continuity event, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. And it's interesting. In the federal government, we've always had pandemic planning as part of our continuity planning. It's actually in our statutes for doing continuity planning. We have to do a pandemic plan. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people didn't take it seriously or that seriously. It became more of a check the box type thing pre 2019. SARS and the H1N1 and the swine flu and other things were able to be stopped relatively quickly. So people didn't think that was ever going to happen. And when COVID came, the other thing with COVID is that it was such a long-term thing. Most times you go to a hurricane, you go to a flood, you come in, you fix things, and you're back out again. This was a 3-year rolling disaster, and people just weren't prepared to be able to handle that type of situation. Kind of taking, and I don't want to say taking for granted, but weren't worried as much about their personnel resources as they were about all the other resources. They kind of assumed the personnel would be there, or they would be able to hire as needed. And in the pandemic kind of proved that's not always a possibility. You may lose some people and not have anybody to backfill them. And you have to take that into consideration on how you plan on working your operations.
Dean, if you were in charge of a company, any company, and you go in there kind of cold, what would be the first 3 or 4 things that you would look for when you go into running a company and with regards to business continuity issues?
I think the biggest things at this point, really, you have to figure out what's critical. I mean, obviously, everything you do is important, but there are things that are critical that if they don't occur, your business doesn't operate. Just hypothetically, say you have a scheduling system for all your truckers. If you have that scheduling system go down, you may have to park your trucks until you get it going again. Or it may be your dispatching system or whatever it might even be, creating bills of lading within your warehouses and stuff. So that you've got to find out what those 2 or 3 critical things are. Just as an example, the federal government, most agencies in the federal government only have 3 critical functions that they identify. They call mission essential functions. If you can identify those, the next thing you've got to do is figure out what you can do to protect that. So if you have a scheduling system, what kind of platform it is on? Is it everything up to date? The cybersecurity, is it secure? Do you have backups for it? Do you have it in an alternate location potentially? If it's a dispatch system, do you have a way to be able to have somebody else do dispatching for you as needed? So really, and then write that down, put that down in a plan. What you would do if you lost that critical function, and then go from there. Business continuity plans really do not need to be these 150, 200-page 3-ring binder volumes that sit up on shelves. I've seen some very effective business continuity plans in 3 or 4 pages because you look at the critical stuff, you determine how the best that you can figure out how to save and restore that critical function. And that I'm a big proponent of the 80-20 rule. You're going to hit 80% of your business continuity with that 20% of your function, and be able to probably save your business just by looking at those 1 or 2 critical functions. So that's really what I would look at. The other big thing is making this plan available to people. Unfortunately, a lot of times we'll have people write plans, and then because it has like personal information in it, because you've got contact lists and everything in there, they stow it away in a safe or lock it away, and nobody has access to it. Unless you know how to use it or know how to implement it, it's not an effective plan. I think it was Douglas MacArthur who might have said that, or Dwight Eisenhower, that plans are worthless, but planning is critical. And so that's really kind of what you have to look at, is look at those 2 or 3 things that would break your company if you need it. One example that I was thinking of a lot the other day when I was preparing for this is you could be a simple husband and wife trucking duo in picking up jobs. Your critical function is your truck, and so if you lost your truck for more than 4 hours, you basically could be out of business. So maybe you have a contract, some kind of a contingency contract with maybe Ryder Rentals or something, that if your truck breaks and something's going to happen, you have a way that Ryder can get you a truck on a temporary basis to continue your work until your truck gets fixed. So, it doesn't have to be this full-blown operation. It can be something very simple. And like I said, business continuity really does not need to be as complicated as you'll see it a lot of times. If you ever Googled it, it can be very overwhelming very quickly.
Dean, what about
the basics?
What about things like business continuity insurance and having some sort of policy? Scott Gaddis, who is we're going to talk with a little bit later, we're going to talk about that. The idea of having, especially for cyber-related type of things. What are your thoughts on that?
For anything, it's definitely a consideration. And again, you can buy insurance for anything, but business continuity insurance, and there's different flavors of it, but it's really designed to pay you for your loss during a time when you're down. So if you lose 3 days of productivity and that costs you $1 million in revenue, that insurance should be there to reimburse you for that revenue. And that's a good insurance. And again, business continuity is a form of risk management. And as a business owner, you're looking at risk all the time. And a business continuity insurance becomes one of those types of things that, do I risk losing that business, or do I pay the $200 a month premium to have that peace of mind that revenue is going to be there, even if I do have an interruption in my operations? I recommend it. I think
if there's a theme,
yes,
then,
go ahead.
If there's a theme, then Dean, what you're saying is that maybe we've made this a little too complicated, because as I was researching this for our conversation, I felt the same way as you did when I started to go to Google and look for things, business continuity. There's all sorts of 80-page PDFs with 50-step programs, but you're saying that we should kind of narrow it down and keep it simple, stupid.
Right. Yes, definitely. And that's the big thing that I've always been a proponent of. I've written a number of policies for the federal government. And if when I build plans, if I can't figure out what I'm supposed to be doing within the first 5 pages of that plan, it's not a good plan, in my opinion. I don't like plans that have 40 pages of background and historical information and policies and everything. I want to be able to open a plan. What do I do now? The building's on fire. The road's washed away. I've got 40 trucks backed up at the train station that stopped. What do I do? And I want to know within a page or two, pull out my plan that I'm familiar with anyway. I need to call this person. I need to reroute here. I need to do this, whatever. But you have that information right up front. That's what the plan should be for. And it can be very simple. Like I said, I've seen extremely effective plans in less than 5 pages. And so I would suggest that if you're interested, Disaster Recovery International, which is an organization that I work with all the time, and I'm actually an instructor with them and work with them. Been to every one of their conferences. I head their glossary committee, so I worked with them a lot. But it's over 20,000 professionals in business continuity throughout the world, and it's very simple, or it's easy to try and get a hold of them, and you can do it through me. I'll provide some information later on, but you can talk to some professionals, and there are a lot of people. I'm more than willing to, sit down and talk with anybody, at least preliminarily, to kind of give you an idea that it does not need to be a full-blown 100-page full-tone thing. It's whatever works for your business. If you're a small business and you have one critical operation that you got to keep going, that's what you focus your plan on, and you don't have to really worry about the other stuff. One thing I always say is, HR is important. HR getting paid is important, but if the HR system went down for 3 days, the trucks don't stop. The trucks are going to keep going while they figure it out. They may not be happy because they didn't get paid, but that's not one of those critical operations that's going to shut a business down like other things can do. So, it's getting back to basics and not worrying about all the stuff that gets added to plans a lot of times that you really don't need to worry about.
So it really does come down to then, Dean, protecting your core, as you said, 80-20, and that
Yes.
seems to be the theme that you're saying here to our viewers and to our listeners. There's a lot of discussion in the trucking industry, and I'm sure you're aware of this, of so-called nuclear verdicts, these big $10 million plus behemoths that can put a trucking company out of business. They're not limited just to trucking, but the industry seems to have a target on its back when it comes to the plaintiff's insurance, the plaintiff's attorneys and the like. Anything that you can suggest with regards to business continuity if you find yourself caught in that web of a plaintiff attorney and a lawsuit and a potential trial? Anything you can say to that? Because I know there's a lot of interest in this in the trucking industry.
Sure, and I imagine Scott will be able to provide some more information on this. But there's a lot, as I mentioned before, there's insurance for most anything. And I know when I was an EMT, I actually had personal liability insurance, because I could do everything right on a rescue squad call and still be sued. And this provides some level of protection for me when I was doing that. And really, there's things like malpractice insurance, and malpractice really doesn't need to, variations doesn't need to be specific to the medical industry. There's other types of liability insurance that's available. As you all know, that we're a very litigious society nowadays. People are going to sue for most anything that they can sue for. And having that insurance and having that protection is probably your best bet to work with your insurance carrier and determine if there's a malpractice insurance or some kind of corporate liability insurance that is available to help protect them against those types of lawsuits.
Dean, we're coming to the end of our conversation. We're almost at the 24-minute mark. I'd like to give you the opportunity, as we're going to give to Scott as well, how they can reach out to you, and also reach out to you through the various groups that you're associated with that do crisis management and business continuity management exercises and the like. How can someone reach out to you and find out more about the work that you and your folks do?
You can look me up on LinkedIn. I don't have the actual link, but I'm there under Dean Gallup. and that's with a UP. You can also contact me at dean.gallup@covenantpark, COVENANTPARK, one word.com. I work for Covenant Park Industries, which is a Northern Virginia-based consulting firm. And like I had mentioned before, I'm more than happy to have informal conversations with anybody about ways that they can get started in business continuity. It doesn't need to be that scary thing that, I just said, the 80-page PDF to try and fill out. We can do some real simple things to just kind of keep you protected and keep your business secure.
And we thank Dean Gallup for joining us. As you heard, he is a noted crisis management and business continuity expert. You can reach out to Dean simply by going to Google and Googling the name Dean Gallup, or he's on LinkedIn as well. And we also want to thank our sponsor, DDC FPO, for joining us. In our next edition, when we talk about business continuity issues, we'll be joined by Scott Goddess. He's a Washington, D.C. based attorney and a managing partner with the law firm Barnes & Thornburg. We will be discussing specifically cybersecurity and ransomware issues and what you need to be concerned about. That'll be coming up in a couple of days. I'm Dan Ronan from Transport Topics. We thank you for watching.
Thank you for joining us today. For more information on future episodes, visit ttnews.com. This has been Transport Topics Newsmakers.